Welcome. I'm Father Kevin, and this is Alert to Good News. Here's a video reflection on the Gospel for the 30th Sunday in Ordinary Time. Every youngster knows what next Thursday is Halloween, a contraction for the Eve of All Hallows, the night before All Saints' Day. And so you might ask youngsters, what is their baptismal name? What did they know about that person? In the gospel, Jesus asks a blind man, "What do you want me to do for you?" The person replies, "I want to see." Jesus responds, "Your faith has saved you." And the blind man saw. Jesus asks each of us today what we want him to do for us. And so, how do we answer Jesus? I would like to speak about another person who was blind to who Jesus was and suddenly saw him as the living Christ, St. Paul. Paul had been a rabid persecutor of the early Christians. Suddenly he was blinded by a light from above on his way to Damascus. That awesome visionary experience of the living Christ turned Paul's life upside down. He became God's chosen instrument to the non-Jews, one of the greatest evangelizers in the history of Christianity, establishing communities all over the Eastern Mediterranean. Paul had a keen insight into what makes people tick. The desire for happiness is universal. We often do things that we think will make us happy, only to end up miserable. And why? Because we sometimes confuse pleasure with happiness. Etched into Paul's vision of human beings were the words of Jesus, "I came so that they might have life and have it more abundantly." For Paul, the path to the fullness of life is discipline. When we eat well, exercise often, and sleep regularly, we feel alive physically. When we love, give priority to our significant relationships, encourage people, we feel alive emotionally. And when we study the achievements of the human spirit, we feel alive intellectually. When we take a few moments each day with God in prayer, humbly and openly, we experience more fully the awesome presence of God. All of these life-giving endeavors require discipline. Discipline sets us free for our ultimate purpose, loving God and our fellow human beings. Paul grasped this and preached that Jesus Christ came to reconcile us with the Father, and in doing so, Christ satisfies the longings that preoccupy our hearts. Jesus Christ is indeed our way, our truth, and our life. And who is this Jesus who captivated Paul and should captivate us? The gospel writers give us a glimpse into this Jesus. In Matthew, Jesus is the long-awaited Messiah, the teacher who instructs the disciples, especially in the Beatitudes, chapter 5. Blessed are they who recognize their absolute dependency upon God. And Matthew invites us to teach as well, especially by example, by the practice of virtue. In Mark, Jesus is the suffering Messiah, human, approachable, and like the early Christians, we may have to cope with suffering, inescapable suffering. We may wonder at times if God has forgotten us. But Jesus reminds us, "Do not be afraid. I am with you always." Remember, Jesus in the boat with his disciples in the Sea of Galilee when a storm arose. I am with you always. In Luke, Jesus is compassionate and forgiving, and salvation is for everyone. Remember the parable of the prodigal son. Luke challenges you and me to be compassionate and forgiving in our relationships. In John, Jesus is noble, majestic, divine. The Word was made flesh. Whoever has seen me has seen the Father. Jesus invites the first disciples to stay with him, and John invites us to stay with Jesus, especially in prayer. Jesus is more than any one person can describe. And so, what image of Jesus inspires each of us to become the kind of person today that Jesus was then? Let that image captivate you, captivate all of us, the way it captivated so many holy men and women throughout the history of Christianity. May the Lord bless you and keep you, and may you always be alert to good news, and may you have a blessed day. Thank you for watching this video. You can see more videos here or simply subscribe by hitting the button below.